Chad Durbin is a weekly here with us on Off the Bench and is our baseball expert between 7 and 9 a.m. on ESPN New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Alexandria. But Durbs, before we get into some of the rumors around baseball season and what could be for MLB, how much do you believe that, or how fired up for you first are you to see Brady and Breeze twice this season?
Wow, right?
Yeah.
Huge, huge, and they're gonna matter. Those games are gonna matter, in my opinion,
Yep.
and they'd matter anyway because of the goat going against another goat. If figure out who it is. I'm more of a Breeze fan, obviously in Louisiana. And, he just as a former athlete, he seems like the guy that he'll lead you, but you can also kind of have fun with and all that. Tom's it's all business, man. For me, that'll be really interesting. I hope we get that last game of the season against them, and I hope we bury him. Be nice for Tom not to be in the playoffs for a season.
Well, that would be great. Derbs, with quarantine here, each week we talk to you, and we've been looking for content on the sports show, and one of the contents that we've been gripped to is the Last Dance.
I thought you were going to say the KBO, but
Oh my
continue.
God!
But because I know Derbs, I know my guy here, and I know that you were locked in to those Bulls teams and those Bulls runs, both in the late '80s and through the '90s. What is your perspective of the Last Dance documentary?
Well, I know Jordan was worried that the more candid behind the scenes stuff would have an effect on the way people feel about him, and I think maybe it does, but in a good way.
Yeah.
I like him. I can love him more than I did before. That tenacity, that competitiveness, that's the thread that you try to find these commonalities with regards to top athletes and everything else, and it's that competitiveness, and you see it in a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 35-year-old, a 55 or 60-year-old. The guys that are competitive, they're competitive, and he competes at everything. He's got that, just that look in his eye when we're talking about, just giving a guy a look on Spike Lee on the sideline.
Yeah.
Like telling him, like, look, dude, you can't guard me. Nobody can guard me today. Everything about that show, it's the quickest 2 hours of my week. Like I always check. I'll pop my phone and see it. It's like, man, it's 9:25 already. Are you kidding me? And the wife sitting next to me, she's like, why isn't our son watching this? Because Kay's like, yeah, I understand Jordan is the GOAT. But Dad, I'm not going to sit through 2 hours of your guy. I'm not doing it. Which I like that. That means he's competitive too. He's like, look, whatever. But yeah, it's just shed a light on all athletes out there. 80s, 90s. In my opinion, were affected by that Jordan. Like the guy that brought it like that all the time. It transcended sports. It made me want to be that baseball player that worked harder and was more competitive and wasn't scared to go fight somebody. I love that you saw him transform during his career, and that Phil Jackson did such a good job of leading him, but he couldn't force it on Jordan. It had to be Jordan's idea. And that was like the Zen Masters, beautiful art that he created, is that I got the best player on earth to go back and say, all right, I don't want to score as much. I want to win more than I want to be the all-time leader. And I'm going to go gain 10 pounds of muscle because I'm not letting the Pistons completely derail everything I'm trying to do. I need to be stronger. I need to be, harder. And it's just great to see greatness, kind of absorb all that information and change. And he did. And I mean, it's just amazing. And to think that he went out in the fall league, the Arizona Fall League, guys, is it's like the pinnacle of minor league prospect baseball. And he went out there and hit 252.
Damn.
And 252 sounds like it sucks. But for a guy that hadn't played since like 14 or 15 years old, and then just, and Francona talks about it. Terry Francona is the manager of the Indians, and he was his manager out there and in Birmingham when he played Double-A. He just said, like, this guy worked harder than everybody. The hitting coach said, hey, I'll be here at 7 a.m. If you're a minute late, you're not hitting every morning in the fall league and in spring training. And he was there an hour earlier than that, hit till his hands bled. It's just like, I can see why this guy's great at the sport he's really gifted at. So all those things just resonate. I mean, I wish I could sit my kid down and make him watch everything, but that's just not. And my wife's like, don't force it, don't force it. And he knows. So it's great. The text messages and reading Twitter during it is crazy because guys they pluck what means something to them out, and you'll see guys that are great in their own sports going, this is what I'm talking about. So The Last Dance is about as good as it gets it's not live, but it is. It's live sports, but it's not.
Yeah.
Did you play with anyone that was with him in Birmingham, or somebody that played minor league baseball with him? Did you talk about the experience?
I've talked to guys, some pitching coaches, and that I didn't have, but they were there in minor league, in spring training, in minor league spring training or big league spring training, and you just talk about like it was such a circus, and they had to make it available. He went to AA so the media could be handled. He should have gone to A-ball, but they didn't have a stadium or the type of infrastructure to be able to handle the media that's going to come in there, and they said also he made himself available every day. And I think Francona talks about it briefly, and Jordan talks about it briefly. He couldn't be the guy that leaves his teammates out to dry. They have to answer questions about Jordan for 40 minutes. After a game, no, he's going to be there every day. And they just said it was awesome in the dugout. It was awesome pregame, great in the clubhouse, great on the bus rides. But it was hard, when the media showed up, they're like, oh crap, that's what that dude deals with. Because those guys weren't in the big leagues yet. I mean, AA, you have maybe one guy that shows up, maybe two, and a camera if there's like a big dollar dog night or something. So it's just a completely different ecosystem, and he made it special. He really did.
I want to ask you about the MLB in a second, Chad, but have you had a chance to check out any KBO baseball, a little live baseball going on?
I love the Korean baseball is a closer brand of baseball to what we play here. It's still foreign, and it still has its flavors, but the pitchers don't stop and pause like the Japanese pitchers do. The hitters have outrageous bat flips, which I think is awesome. And they're not doing it to spite the pitcher. They're doing it because that's what they do. I mean, that's how they do it. And I played with Chano Park, who is like the John Wayne meets Wayne Gretzky meets Michael Jordan of South Korea. He wasn't allowed to vote while he was a player. He wasn't allowed to vote in their system because he would sway the vote too much.
Wow. That is a crazy kind of claim to fame. That's wild.
How about that? So he had the type of media following him around, but like he said, their game is, because he played so early over here, their game kind of molded the teams he played with, and it wasn't so much, Ichiro came in a lot later, and they had some Japanese players, but Chan Ho was one of the first guys to come in, and he had such an influence on the way guys threw it. It's Korean, and it's very foreign, and it doesn't look like our traditional pitchers here, but it's a closer brand. And it's just fun to watch, something different. It's kind of an introduction back to live sports.
Yeah.
And UFC going this weekend. Is kind of exciting. I like watching MMA, and this will be a fun. I mean, live sports, man. I'm in. And I was going to ask you, T-Bob, the baseball. It's obviously not. It's not. You don't consume it the same way other people do. You're not. The way it's presented to you isn't as attractive, and you didn't grow up playing it or a little bit. But
yeah.
What would you need as it's presented to you? As this, maybe they start playing in July. What would you need to go in? And let me use this as an example. I don't want to look at Goodell during the draft. So I streamed the guys on my phone and put the volume up. And, I mean, he was on the TV, but I wanted to hear what some other guy, Rutledge and all that. I wanted to hear what they were saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like what would the production need to be to bring in like the average guy who's maybe fallen in love or out of love with the MLB? Okay, for me personally, if I really am going to care about a sport, I like to have a rooting interest. I grew up as a huge Braves fan growing up in Atlanta. Like, they meant the world to me. Tom Glavine, I was obsessed. Maddox, Smoltz, Chipper Jones. I mean, Chipper Jones is like a childhood hero, right? I would love to get that back. Here's my deal is I need to be able to watch the games a bit easier. And I know it's kind of cliche or maybe a bit tired at this point, but like when the Braves had the Superstation and you always knew the channel that you could go to get the game, like that helped immensely. It's like I watch Fox Sports NOLA all the time just because of the New Orleans Pelicans, because I want to watch all those games. So if I had an easy way to watch those games, and then something the MLB needs to do, it's something that the NFL needs to do, in college football as well, that basketball's been really good on, they need to take all the restrictions off people using clips online and everything. Stop trying to hide all the highlights and content behind a paywall or control them to the MLB. They need to let the internet have free reign over all this footage, because then like memes start and jokes start and people start to get back involved, and you get the internet age kind of. It just feels very tired to try to hoard that content behind a paywall.
I hear that. I know that's when you're flipping through clips and you're hearing people's opinions on them, or it's mashed up, and there's just a different way that we're starting our new, I'll say it, new normal crap. Our new normal now of the way we consume what we're watching. It's not as important in a Zoom call or a webinar that you're as cleaned up as you needed to be on live TV before.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be HD. And it will be. The quality will go back up, but I think people are getting used to consuming media in a different way than they have in the past. And I think that's an opportunity for all sports.
Yep.
I think it's fantastic. You need to have some guys, some former guys, live streaming, commenting over it, letting fan interaction happen in a different way, and fan engagement. And that's kind of my thoughts. Baseball's got this great opportunity of being one of the only shows in town for a small stretch of time. How are you going to engage your audience or the potential new audience that's there? So I was just thinking about it, and I thought, because you are fringe in a lot of ways, you might have to consume some baseball because you do this. What's palatable?
Well,
so
actually, and to your point, Derbs, did you see the Nationals a few weeks back all on a live Zoom call rewatching the Astros World Series? Because that was great. Or rewatching them defeating the Astros, because that was like the players, they're giving you live stories about what went down. They're making fun of the Astros for cheating, which was excellent. So, yeah, more forward-thinking stuff like that. Maybe that's a trick. And who knows, man, maybe we have baseball now coming in July. Like, what was your reaction when you saw the story?
Well, I think it's more and more realistic. I think the minutia is, and it's important minutia, is that the tests are there for the guys to be able to take, so that we know who does and doesn't have it. That the controls are there, and then they can go. So there'll be some sort of a spring training, because they need 3 to 4 weeks to get arms ready, and maybe a hair more. And then once the games start, obviously that's its own world that they know way more than I do about. But, for the players and their families, making sure that, their environment is consistent and controlled for as long as it needs to be until it's time to go back and have some kind of a normal out there. Like that's I'm excited for, as a player, I know what it's like not to throw a baseball for a while as a pitcher and just rip through one and see a reaction or even just the sounds of a ballpark, the smells of it. I know how excited these guys are going to be. I know managers, man. They live and die by this. They're fantastic, guys, and they've been. Everybody's kind of their life's on pause. So I'm excited to see kind of the energy that the players are going to push out, because they know, kind of like this UFC fight this weekend. These guys are fighting, but they're really fighting. To go out and generate some, attention and revenue so people can keep jobs. And this isn't as simple as just entertainment. This is really about, presenting, to a fan base and consumers so that guys can go earn money and keep jobs. It's bigger than just the entertainment value of it. And I know the guys, a lot of Major League Baseball guys understand that. I've been on a lot of private Zoom calls that I wish we would, record and post, because some of the stuff said in it is gold. But it's baseball and guys want to stay private. So I think it's going to be very interesting how it's presented to us.
Thank you, Derbs. Have a good week. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
There he is,
Thank
Chad
you,
Durbin,
Derb.
checking in.